Leo Tolstoy, one of the most celebrated writers in history. He had wealth, fame, family, and international recognition. But at the height of his success, he wrote, "I could not attach a rational meaning to a single act of my entire life." He had everything we are taught to want, yet he wanted to die. In 1882, at the age of 50, Tolstoy published a short autobiographical work called A Confession. In it, he describes a spiritual crisis that nearly drove him to suicide. He writes, "My question, that which at the age of 50 brought me to the verge of suicide, was the simplest of questions lying in the soul of every man. What will come of what I do today or tomorrow? What will come of my whole life? Why should I live? Why wish for anything or do anything?" He hid ropes, firearms from himself. He feared what he might do. At the time, Tolstoy had achieved enormous literary fame with War and Peace, yet he felt spiritually bankrupt. He saw the lives of people around him, his peers and the Russians, and realized none of them had a real answer either. They were all distracting themselves with entertainment, politics, polite conversations, pretending life had meaning, when deep down they knew they didn't believe it. Tolstoy turned to philosophy for answers. He studied thinkers like Schopenhauer and Kant, and he considered the conclusion of science, but nothing satisfied him. He concluded that reasons alone could not explain why we should go on living. Science could tell him how things worked, but not why anything mattered. He wrote, "Science is meaningless because it gives no answer to our question. The only question important for us, what shall we do and how shall we live?" In his mind, modern philosophy and science had abandoned the question of meaning. They were preoccupied with describing the universe, but not with helping a person live inside it. Tolstoy eventually found an answer, not in academia, but in the ordinary lives of peasants. He noticed that the common people, though uneducated, lived with a sense of purpose. They believed in God. They worked hard. They accepted suffering with humility. Most importantly, they didn't pretend to know everything, but they lived like life mattered. Tolstoy began to study the teaching of Jesus, not the institutional church, which he criticized heavily, but the direct teachings found in the Gospels. He was particularly drawn to the Sermon on the Mount. He rejected violence, condemned wealth, and preached moral actions rooted in love. He eventually formed his own Christian anarchism, a belief system based on nonviolence, manual labor, personal humility, and living in accordance with the ethical teachings of Christ. He renounced his copyrights, gave up many of his possessions, and he tried to live more simply. To be clear, Tolstoy's version of Christianity was not traditional. He rejected miracles, the Trinity, and even the divine of Christ. What mattered to him was the moral teaching. Resist not evil. Love the neighbor and do unto others. So did Tolstoy solve the meaning of life? He would say yes. For him, meaning was found not in pleasure, success, or intellectual brilliance, but in humble service, love for others, and obedience to moral truth. The meaning of life is to serve the force that sent me into the world. That force is God. Whether or not if you believe in God, Tolstoy's message cuts through the modern noise. The things we chase, status, money, intelligence, might all fall to answer the one question that matters. Why live at all? Tolstoy believed the answer was not found in theory, but in action. Not in wealth, but in sacrifice. Not in argument, but in faith and love. Tolstoy critics admire something many people feel today. We have more information than ever before. More technology, more comfort. But meaning? That's harder to come by. He reminds us that we can't outsource the question of meaning at some point. You have to confront it yourself. No one can do it for you. And maybe that's where real life begins. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe. Sorry about the air. I know it's kind of loud and outrageous. I apologize. Yeah, let me know if you want to see more videos like this. It is kind of crazy that he had everything. Money, fame, wealth, everything. He went to philosophers like Immanuel Kant and Schopenhauer. And the only way he took away from them, the only thing that he ended up doing was making his own Christian anarchism. I think that's how you say it. God is very powerful. This guy wanted to harm himself, and God saved him. Religion saved him. Not traditional, but his own way of interpreting religion. Yeah, be sure to follow my Substack, follow my Twitter. I made an article on AI. I think you'll really like it. You should definitely check it out. It's a pretty good article in my opinion. But yeah, the philosopher who solved the meaning of life, Leo Tolstoy. Y'all have a great day.